Welcome to Challenge the Stats, where I'm going to be taking a look at two cards that could be used for a popular commander. One that I think sees too little play, and one that I think sees too much. This week, we'll be looking at Wilhelt the Rotcleaver, which is the second most popular Dimir commander, just 200 decks behind the hyper-popular Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow, and the most popular commander for zombie typal decks. It's got 16,000 builds in the EDHREC database, and given the popularity of zombies as a creature type, that won't be changing anytime soon. Wilhelt is a zombie warrior costing 2 blue and black. It's a 3/3, and it says whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. And then at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice a zombie. If you do, draw a card. Almost exclusively, folks build Wilhelt decks around zombies and zombie synergy, and for good reason. It's a fantastic commander if you're doing that. There's also a lot of synergies with being able to consistently sacrifice creatures in a deck like this, but one that people don't seem to be taking advantage of can be found on the card Faces in the Past, a blue enchantment from way back in Scourge that's only showing up in about 0.5% of Wilhelt decks. Faces of the Past costs 2 and a blue, and it reads whenever a creature dies, tap all untapped creatures that share a creature type with it, or untap all tapped creatures that share a creature type with it. At the very least, Faces of the Past will let you untap all the zombies that attacked during your turn, so they can now be available as blockers, functionally giving your team pseudo-vigilance. Looking through Wilhelt decks in EDHREC, however, you'll see there's quite a few zombies showing up in these lists with tap abilities. Things like Cleaver Scab that lets you sacrifice a zombie to create 2 tokens that are copies of the sacrificed creature, Tomb Tyrant, which lets you return a zombie at random from your graveyard to the battlefield, and Crypt Breaker, which lets you draw a card. Best of all might be Shepherd of Rot, a zombie that taps to make each player lose 1 life for each zombie on the battlefield. With a few ways to sacrifice things, you might be able to chain tap abilities to just kill the entire board, assuming you're ahead on life. Now, technically, Faces of the Past does work for all players, but almost no one else is going to be able to have the ability to utilize that synergy just at will and as repeatedly as you can. Occasionally, it will cause you a few problems, but by and large, the advantage you are going to get will far outweigh what anyone else will be able to do. Now, if you do choose to give Faces of the Past a try in your Wilhelt list, and I would highly recommend it, something has to come out. And my pick for the card to remove is Champion of the Perished, a creature showing up in over 50% of Wilhelt decks. Champion of the Perished costs 1 mana for a zombie. It's a 1/1, and it says whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1 counter on Champion of the Perished. Now, Champion of the Perished is a bomb and limited, and it's a hilarious play on Champion of the Parish. But it's just not that amazing in a Wilhelt deck. There's nothing in the way of +1 counter synergies, and it doesn't really interact with the rest of your board or what your deck is trying to do. It's definitely an efficient body, and it might get big if left alone, but even then it's subject to being chump blocked by basically any creature in play. It's kind of difficult to poke through, and that's in a best case scenario. It's a good card, but it's probably not good enough in a deck like this. It's absolutely filled with haymakers, life takers, and backbreakers. Faces of the Past is going to protect you from crackbacks, and in plenty of cases it's going to enable some fairly degenerate plays by letting you repeatedly activate creature tap abilities. In the grand scheme of things, that's a much better use of your card slot than just a 1/1 that might get a little bit bigger. Thanks for listening, and remember to EDHREC your deck before you wreck your deck.